There is a strange and quiet pattern that shapes almost every human life. The actions that possess the greatest power to completely transform your future are usually the exact actions you feel the strongest urge to avoid. You can feel this right now. There is a difficult conversation you have been postponing for months. There is a new skill you know you need to learn but you keep finding reasons to delay. There is a project or a decision you keep stepping away from because it feels too complicated or too heavy. And the most fascinating part about this resistance is that it almost always appears before you even begin the task. Nothing has actually gone wrong yet. You have not failed. You have not even made an attempt. But somehow your mind has already calculated the outcome, or anticipated all the ways it can go wrong, and decided that the situation is far too difficult to handle right now. So you step back. You wait for a better time. You wait for more clarity. You plan for a better strategy. You wait for a sudden burst of confidence that you believe will make the process easier. But that perfect moment never arrives. And slowly, without you ever making a conscious choice, your life begins organizing itself around the things you are avoiding. Cleaning up your room which had been covered with dust accumulated for the past 2 months. Reorganizing your desk so that the keyboard is placed at a perfect 18.3-degree angle to your wrists. Or even repositioning your vision board to the most obvious spot in your workspace. The real question is not why difficult things exist in the world. The deeper and much more important question is why your own mind reacts to these difficult things with such a powerful and overwhelming sense of resistance. Because once you understand the exact mechanism behind that reaction, everything changes. The things you once avoided begin to look entirely different. You realize that you are not lacking discipline or lacking talent. You are simply protecting your own dignity. Think about a specific moment that probably feels very familiar to you. You wake up with a clear intention. You tell yourself that today is the day you will finally tackle that major goal. You sit down at your desk, you open your notebook or your computer, and before you have completed a single meaningful action, the heaviness arrives. You suddenly feel hungry. After you eat your meal, the inevitable food coma arrives. It is not a clear thought. It is more like a dense fog. A quiet, low-grade resistance that does not have a precise name but has a very precise and devastating effect. It stops you completely. Your attention shifts away from the work and moves entirely toward the discomfort you are feeling. You begin imagining all the possible complications. You think about how long it might take to finish. You worry about how many mistakes you might make along the way. You then remember that you still need to learn that skill before you could proceed. Eventually, the simplest and most appealing option presents itself. You decide to avoid it. You tell yourself you are just taking a short break or waiting for a better time. You return to tasks that feel easier, more familiar, and far more manageable. In the short term, the emotional pressure disappears completely. You feel a sense of relief. But something else is quietly growing just beneath the surface of that relief. It is a subtle and continuous erosion of your self-competence. Every single time you step away from a difficult challenge, a small but powerful message forms inside your mind. You are secretly telling yourself that you are not capable of handling hard things. Over time, that quiet message hardens into a core belief. And that belief slowly becomes the invisible boundary line of your entire life. This is not a character shortcoming. This reaction is a survival mechanism that has been running in the background for a very long time. For many of us, our internal resilience was depleted long before we ever reached adulthood. You might have grown up in an environment where the standards were always slightly higher than your reach. An environment where falling short was met with disappointment, criticism, or shame. You learned very early that you are only safe when you are perfect. And since perfection is impossible, your nervous system decided that the only truly safe choice is to avoid trying altogether. You are not actually avoiding the work itself. You are avoiding the feeling of not being enough. But the most interesting and liberating part of this entire dynamic is that feeling of immense difficulty is not an accurate reflection of reality. In almost every case, it is a psychological illusion created by your brain when it is faced with uncertainty, which is the same as if you're learning a new skill. Your mind has one primary responsibility above all others. Its job is to protect you and keep you alive. Long before modern complexities, the brain evolved strictly to detect physical threats and avoid danger. Anything unfamiliar, unpredictable, or beyond your current level of experience activates that ancient security system. The problem is that your brain does not distinguish clearly between a physical danger and a psychological uncertainty. To your nervous system, stepping out of your comfort zone feels exactly the same as stepping into a dark forest full of predators. So when a difficult task appears, your internal alarm system activates. It produces strong emotions designed to slow you down and make you retreat. Fear, doubt, overthinking, and anxiety flood your system. These reactions are not logical evaluations of the task in front of you. They are simply protective signals. Imagine there is a smoke detector inside you. That smoke alarm is going off while you are simply making toast. The alarm is not broken, but it is severely miscalibrated. The loud noise does not mean the house is burning down. It just means you are cooking something new. Most people interpret this emotional discomfort incorrectly. They believe the heavy feeling means the task itself is impossible, or that they lack the necessary talent. But the discomfort is simply your brain reacting to unfamiliar territory. Your resistance is not a warning sign that you should stop. It is actually a signal that you are standing exactly where you need to be. You are at the edge of your current capabilities, and you are just one step away from stepping into a new era of knowledge. The situations that produce the strongest resistance are always the situations that hold the greatest potential for your personal growth. Let me reframe this entire problem for you using a dimensional shift. Imagine your life is a video game, but nobody ever told you the rules. You have been playing in a one-dimensional trap. You are constantly choosing between comfort and discomfort. In a one-dimensional game, comfort will always win. But life is not one-dimensional. There is a higher dimension that most people never see. It is the choice between the person you are right now and the person you have the potential to become. When you choose the easy path, you are sacrificing Dimension 2 and Dimension 3 for the sake of Dimension 1. You are trading the person you could become for the comfort of the person you currently are. And the truly devastating part of this transaction is that you usually do not even realize you are making a trade. You tell yourself you are just postponing the work. You think you are gathering more information or waiting for a better opportunity. You are not postponing. You are choosing. Every choice you make is a vote for the type of person you are becoming. When you avoid the difficult conversation, you are voting for avoidance. When you skip the hard task, you are voting for convenience. This is not a moral judgment upon your character. It is simply the mathematical reality of human behavior. Most people spend their entire lives voting for the exact person they do not want to become, and then they wonder why they feel stuck. When you finally realize that difficulty is the exact mechanism of growth, the fog begins to lift. The difficulty you are facing is not a solid wall. It is just thin air and water vapor that disappears the moment you decide to step into it. To permanently change this pattern, you must understand the deep logic of how your mind keeps you trapped, and you must learn how to dismantle it. There is a specific mental model you fall into. It is the loop of avoidance. This loop consists of 3 distinct stages. The first stage is the trigger. A problem appears that requires you to stretch beyond your current abilities. The second stage is the story. Your mind immediately begins constructing a narrative to justify your fear. You tell yourself it is too complicated, or that you are not ready, or that the timing is wrong. The third stage is the reaction. Because the story your mind created feels so convincing, you delay the action. You postpone the work. To break this loop, you must intervene in the tiny space between the trigger and the story. You must strip away the emotion and look at the situation with cold, analytical clarity. People who manage to move through resistance consistently do not possess some magical absence of fear. They simply use 3 structural reminders to re-anchor themselves in reality when their emotions try to pull them backward. You can think of these as 3 psychological rules you must apply every time you feel the urge to run away. The first rule is that avoidance is completely useless. It might feel like a profound relief in the short term when you step back from a difficult task. Your nervous system exhales. But the problem does not disappear. It waits. And it tends to come back to bite you from the behind in a much larger form at a much less convenient moment, when the stakes are significantly higher. The challenges you sidestep have a way of following you. Life operates on a principle of emotional economics. Easy tasks pay a basic wage, but hard tasks build capital gain. When you avoid the hard and correct thing, you are not resting. You are simply putting a debt on a future credit card. That unfinished project is a heavy sword hanging over your head. The energy you spend avoiding it is almost always greater than the energy it would take to actually face it. The second rule is that difficulty is objective, but your feeling about it is completely subjective. The dread that arrives before you begin is your brain doing what brains do when they encounter something abstract. It generates a massive phantom of difficulty. It creates a fuzzy, terrifying image of the task. But difficulty itself is just math and physics. A mountain is a specific height. A project requires a specific number of hours. When you stop looking at the task through your intense emotions and start looking at it through pure logic, you can deconstruct the phantom. Take the overwhelming problem and break it into the absolute smallest concrete piece. The thing that felt like an impossible cliff face turns out to be one step of a staircase. You just could not see the steps because you were standing too far away. When the resistance hits, Do not ask yourself to commit to the entire journey. Just ask yourself what the very first, most concrete step is. Move from emotion to function. The third rule is that problems always have solutions. When you are standing in the fog of self-doubt, the most clarifying thing you can do is ask a different question. Do not ask if you can do this. Ask if anyone else has ever done this before. Almost always the answer is yes. If someone else has solved this problem, there is a blueprint. They started somewhere, they faced the exact same obstacle you are feeling right now, and they figured it out. So the only logical question left is, why not you? Let us practice this right now. I want you to think of one specific area of your life where you have been pushing and worrying but not actually moving. You know exactly which one it is. Notice how long you have been carrying the weight of this unmade decision. How much energy has gone into planning and avoiding, compared to actual doing. Now ask yourself what it would feel like to take one single, imperfect step toward it today. You do not have to solve the whole thing. You just have to prove to your brain that you can survive the friction of starting. As we reach the end of this reflection, I want you to look back at the version of yourself that constantly wanted to retreat. You can view that part of yourself with compassion now. You understand that your resistance was never a measure of your worth. It was simply an outdated protection program trying to keep you safe from failures that no longer threaten you. The obstacle you have been circling for months is not a sign that you are on the wrong path. It is the exact shape of your next level of growth. You will never feel entirely ready to do the difficult things. Readiness is not a feeling that magically arrives. It is a decision that you make. Most people are waiting for courage to show up before they take action. But that sequence is completely backwards. Action creates courage. You do not feel brave and then do the difficult thing. You do the difficult thing and then you feel brave. Confidence is the exhaust that comes from the engine of action. Doing is the cause and confidence is the effect. Your life is simply the sum of your avoided decisions. The fastest way to progress is to stop avoiding what you know you should do right now. Step into the fog and let your movement clear the path. But understanding this psychological reality is only the beginning of your transformation. Recognizing your internal smoke detector is one thing. Knowing exactly how to silence it when it is screaming at you is another. How do you actually bypass your own alarm system on a random morning when you feel completely unmotivated? How do you force your nervous system to execute the work when the resistance feels physically heavy? In our next video, we are going to move from psychology to pure pragmatism. We will break down the exact step-by-step action frameworks to override your procrastination. We will build an operational toolkit that makes starting the hard things inevitable.